The coffee in Dr. Elena Rodriguez's cup had gone cold hours ago, but she didn't notice. Her eyes were glued to the massive holographic display floating above the main console at Kepler Research Station. Something was out there in the darkness, between stars, and it shouldn't exist. "Computer, run the scan again," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the quiet observation deck. The machine hummed softly, and within seconds, the same impossible image appeared before her. A ship? No, that wasn't quite right. Ships were built by civilizations that understood metal and engines and the basic rules of space travel. This thing looked like it had grown rather than been constructed. Elena pushed back from her desk and rubbed her tired eyes. She had been studying alien artifacts for 15 years, ever since humanity first discovered they weren't alone in the universe. She had seen strange metals that bent light, crystals that stored information in ways human science couldn't explain, and even fragments of what appeared to be living rock. But nothing like this. The object drifting through the Veil Nebula was enormous, easily the size of a small city. Its hull seemed to shift and flow even as she watched, as if the metal itself was breathing. Dark patterns rippled across its surface like veins under skin. Elena had seen this kind of biometallic composition only once before, in classified files from the Galactic Survey Division, Class 15 Death World Technology. She felt a chill run down her spine. Death worlds were the stuff of nightmares in the scientific community. These were planets where evolution had gone completely wrong, creating ecosystems so hostile that only the most vicious predators could survive. The few probes humanity had sent to study such worlds had either been destroyed instantly or had transmitted back images so disturbing that the footage was classified at the highest levels. The creatures that evolved on death worlds didn't just survive, they thrived on destruction. They built technology not for exploration or trade, but for hunting. Their ships were designed like their biology, perfect killing machines that could travel between stars, seeking new prey across the galaxy. And now one of their ships was floating. Dead in space, apparently abandoned. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she activated the communication system. "Control, this is Dr. Rodriguez in Lab 7. I need to speak with Commander Torres immediately." The response crackled through the speakers within minutes. "Rodriguez, this is Torres. What's so urgent that you're calling me at 3 in the morning?" "Sir, I've found something big. You need to see this right now." 20 minutes later, Commander Torres stood beside Elena, staring at the same holographic display. His weathered face was grim as he studied the alien vessel. Torres had been running deep space stations for over 2 decades, and Elena had never seen him look quite so unsettled. "You're absolutely certain this is from a Class 15 world?" he asked quietly. Elena nodded. "The biometallic composition is unmistakable. See those dark patterns flowing across the hull? That's not corrosion or damage. That's how their technology works. It's alive, sir, or at least it was alive." Torres was silent for a long moment, his military training warring with scientific curiosity. "How long has it been drifting?" "Based on its trajectory and the stellar positions, I'd estimate several centuries. Maybe longer. It appears to be completely dead. No energy signatures, no movement, no response to our scans." "Appears to be," Torres repeated slowly. "That's not exactly reassuring when we're talking about a ship designed by apex predators." Elena understood his hesitation. Protocol was clear. Any technology from a Class 15 death world was to be reported to Earth Command immediately and avoided at all costs. These civilizations had wiped out entire star systems before mysteriously vanishing from the galaxy. Their abandoned technology was considered too dangerous to study, but Elena also knew what such a discovery could mean for humanity. Death world species had mastered survival in ways that defied imagination. Their biotechnology could revolutionize medicine, their materials could make human ships nearly indestructible, and their weapons could ensure that humanity never again had to fear the unknown dangers lurking in deep space. "Sir," Elena said carefully, "this could be the greatest scientific discovery in human history. We're talking about technology that could advance our civilization by centuries. Torres continued staring at the display. The alien ship seemed to pulse with its own dark energy, even though their instruments showed it was completely inert. It could also be the last discovery we ever make. The two of them stood in silence, watching the mysterious vessel drift through the nebula's colorful gas clouds. Elena found herself studying every detail of its design. The ship's front section came to a sharp point, like the head of some massive spear. Along its sides, she could see what looked like closed ports or maybe mouths. The entire structure seemed designed for ramming, tearing, consuming. "Dr. Rodriguez," Torres said finally, "I want you to run every scan we have. Deep analysis of its structure, composition, any trace energy signatures. But we maintain a safe distance. No direct contact, no probe launches, nothing that might wake it up." Elena felt her heart racing, and if the scans show it's truly dead. Torres turned to look at her directly. His eyes held the weight of command, and the burden of making decisions that could affect thousands of lives. "Then we'll consider the next step very carefully." Over the following days, Elena worked around the clock, running scan after scan of the alien vessel. Each new piece of data only made it more fascinating and more terrifying. The ship's hull wasn't just biometallic, it appeared to be a complex living system, with what looked like circulatory pathways running throughout its structure. There were chambers that might have been organs and sections that seemed designed to process organic matter. Most disturbing of all, Elena discovered that the ship's apparent damage wasn't from external weapons or cosmic debris. The massive tears in its hull appeared to have been made from the inside, as if something had fought its way out of the vessel. As she compiled her reports, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Sometimes when she looked at the long-range sensors, she thought she saw faint flickers of light from the direction of the alien ship. But when she ran detailed scans of those areas, the instruments showed nothing but empty space. On the fourth night, as Elena was preparing to leave the lab, the ship did something impossible. For just a moment, barely long enough to register on the sensors, lines of blue-green light raced across its hull like lightning. The patterns were complex, almost like writing, or maybe like the neural pathways in a vast brain suddenly sparking. To life, Elena's blood ran cold as she realized what she might be looking at. The ship wasn't dead, it was sleeping, and their constant scanning might have started to wake it up. She reached for the communication panel with shaking hands, knowing that she had to tell Commander Torres immediately. But as her finger hovered over the button, the alien vessel pulsed again, brighter this time. The light patterns seemed almost hypnotic, drawing her attention deeper into their swirling complexity, for reasons she couldn't explain. Elena found herself hesitating. Something about those lights seemed familiar, almost welcoming. As if the ship recognized her somehow and was trying to communicate. The moment passed, and the alien vessel returned to its dark, silent state. But Elena knew their situation had just changed completely. They weren't just observing a dead relic anymore. They had found something that was very much alive. Lieutenant Jake Chun had been on plenty of salvage missions, but none of them had felt quite like this. As their small transport ship approached the alien vessel, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were flying straight into the mouth of some sleeping giant. The thing was massive up close, easily dwarfing their entire research station. "Distance closing to 500 meters, announced Pilot Officer Kim Park from the cockpit. Her voice carried just a hint of nervousness that she was trying hard to hide. Still no response from the target vessel. Chun checked his equipment one more time. As team leader for this mission, he carried the responsibility for 5 other crew members, all volunteers who understood they might not be coming back. Dr. Rodriguez had insisted on joining them, despite Commander Torres's protests. The other 3 were specialists: Tech Sergeant Mike Santos for electronics, Engineer Lisa Wong for structural analysis, and Corporal Alex Rivera for security. "Remember, people," Chun said over the comm system, "we go in, we document everything, we take samples of anything that looks safe, and we get out. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. If anything feels wrong, we leave immediately." As they drew Closer, the alien ship's details became clearer and more disturbing. What had looked like metal from a distance was clearly something else entirely. The hull seemed to have a texture almost like skin, with patterns that looked disturbingly similar to muscle fibers running beneath the surface. Dark veins spread across its length like a circulatory system, and Chun could swear they were gently pulsing. Jesus, whispered Santos. Is that thing breathing? Sensors aren't picking up any life signs, Park replied, but her voice didn't sound convinced. Hull temperature is slightly above absolute zero, which is normal for something that's been in space this long? Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward in her seat, studying the readings on her portable scanner. The biometallic composition is even more complex than our long-range scans indicated. This isn't just technology made from organic materials. This is technology that grew. The docking process took almost an hour. The alien ship's docking ports were unlike anything in human design. Instead of simple mechanical connections, they seemed to reshape themselves to match their transport's docking collar. Chun watched in fascination and horror as the alien port literally flowed around their ship's connector, forming what looked like a perfect organic seal. Well, that's not terrifying at all, muttered Rivera, checking his sidearm for the third time. Once the seal was confirmed, the team gathered at the airlock. Their environmental suits were top of the line, designed to protect against everything from radiation to biological contamination. Chen hoped it would be enough. The alien ship's airlock was a circular opening that dilated like an iris as they approached. Beyond it lay a corridor that seemed to stretch into infinite darkness. Emergency lights on their suits cut through the gloom, revealing walls that curved and flowed like the inside of some enormous living creature. Atmosphere is present, Wong reported, studying her readings. Oxygen, nitrogen, and something else I can't identify. Breathable, but I wouldn't recommend taking off your helmet. They moved forward slowly, their boots making soft squelching sounds on the floor. The surface beneath their feet felt slightly yielding, like walking on thick carpet, but Chin could see it was the same biometallic material as the hull. Look at these walls, Dr. Rodriguez whispered, running her gloved hand along the surface. The patterns aren't random. They're neural pathways. This entire ship is designed like a brain. The corridor branched ahead of them, splitting into 3 directions. Chin consulted the rough map they had created from external scans. We take the center path first. Stay together and keep your lights moving. I don't want any blind spots. As they ventured deeper into the ship, the strangeness only increased. They passed chambers filled with what looked like organic machinery, pulsing pods connected by thick, vein-like cables. Some rooms contained pools of dark liquid that reflected their lights like oil. In one chamber, they found structures that might have been control panels, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when they weren't looking directly at them. The technology is incredible, Rodriguez breathed, taking readings from everything she could safely approach. It's like they merged biology and engineering so completely that there's no distinction between the two. Santos was examining what appeared to be a computer terminal, its surface rippling with bioluminescent patterns. I'm getting some kind of energy readings here, but it's not electrical, it's more like ... neural activity. Stay away from that, Shin ordered quickly. We don't know what might trigger it. But it was too late. As Santos reached out to take a closer reading, the terminal suddenly blazed to life. Patterns of blue and green light raced across its surface, and similar lights began appearing throughout the ship. The walls around them started to glow with the same neural patterns Dr. Rodriguez had been studying. Everyone out now, Shun shouted, but even as he spoke he realized they had a problem. The corridor behind them was changing. The walls were slowly contracting, like the throat of some massive creature beginning to swallow. The ship's waking up, Rodriguez said, her voice filled with wonder and terror. Our presence, our scanning, it's been slowly bringing its systems back online. The team moved quickly toward what they hoped was another exit, but the ship seemed to be responding to their every movement. Corridors sealed themselves behind them while new passages opened ahead, as if the vessel was guiding them deeper into It's core. This isn't random, Wong realized. It's hurting us somewhere specific. As they moved through the shifting maze of corridors, they began to encounter more disturbing sights. Alcoves along the walls contained what looked like fossilized remains, but the shapes were wrong. Some appeared to be from creatures they couldn't identify, but others looked disturbingly familiar. "Chun," Rivera called out, his voice tight with fear, "you need to see this." In a chamber off the main corridor, they found themselves looking at what could only be described as a trophy room. The walls were lined with preserved specimens from dozens of different species. But what made Chin's blood run cold were the ones that looked unmistakably human. "That's impossible," Rodriguez whispered. "Humans have never been to this part of space. We've never encountered this species before." But there they were, human bones, human artifacts, even what looked like pieces of human technology integrated into the ship's organic systems. The implications were staggering. Santos's voice crackled over the comb, tight with panic. "Sir, we've got a bigger problem. I'm reading massive power buildups throughout the ship. This thing isn't just waking up, it's getting ready to move." The ship around them pulsed with increasing energy, and Chen could feel a vibration through the deck plates as massive systems came online after centuries of dormancy. The neural patterns on the walls were becoming brighter and more complex, like thoughts racing through an enormous mind. "We need to get back to our ship," Chun said. But even as he spoke, he heard Park's voice over the radio. "Team leader, we have a problem out here. The docking collar is changing. It's like the ship is growing around our transport." Chun closed his eyes for a moment, understanding the full scope of their situation. They weren't just exploring an alien vessel. They were inside a predator that had been sleeping, and their presence had awakened something that should have stayed dead. The hunt was about to begin. The deeper they went into the alien ship, the more wrong everything felt. Lieutenant Chen led his team through corridors that seemed to breathe around them, following the only path that remained open. The ship was definitely hurting them somewhere, and Ching had a sinking feeling they weren't going to like their destination. Dr. Rodriguez stayed close behind him, her scanner beeping constantly as it tried to make sense of the readings. "The human artifacts we found back there," she said quietly, "they're not just random debris. They're integrated into the ship's systems, woven into the very structure." "What does that mean?" asked Santos, his voice muffled by his helmet, but still carrying clear notes of fear. "I'm not sure yet," Rodriguez admitted. "But it suggests contact between humans and this species happened long before we thought possible." The corridor ahead opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. It was like standing inside the heart of some enormous creature. Massive biomechanical structures pulsed with soft light, and thick cables snaked across the ceiling like arteries. But what dominated the space was a central column that stretched from floor to ceiling, covered in what looked like a mixture of alien symbols and disturbingly familiar markings. "My God," whispered Engineer Wong, "look at the base of that column." As they approached, their lights revealed something that made Chun's mind reel. Mixed in with the alien biotechnology were pieces that were unmistakably human in origin. Control panels with English labels, computer interfaces that looked like they belonged on Earth ships, and data storage devices that bore the logos of human corporations. But the technology was ancient. Not just old, but impossibly ancient. The style was human, but it was more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. The metal showed signs of age that suggested it had been here for thousands of years. "This is impossible," Rodriguez breathed. Kneeling beside a control panel that bore the faded logo of an Earth-based aerospace company. "This technology is human, but the carbon dating on these biomechanical components suggests they've been integrated for over 10,000 years. Santos was scanning a nearby interface when it suddenly flickered to life at his touch. Alien symbols flowed across the screen, but then something incredible happened. The symbols began changing, shifting into letters and numbers that the team could actually read. "It's adapting to us," Santos said, his voice filled with wonder and terror. "The system is learning our language in real time." Words began forming on the screen, first in broken English, then becoming more complex and sophisticated as the alien intelligence learned their language structure. The message that appeared made Chun's blood run cold. "Welcome home, children of Earth. We have been waiting for your return." The team stared at the screen in stunned silence. Then more text appeared, faster now, as if the alien intelligence was eager to communicate. "You carry the genetic markers we planted long ago. The seed ship protocol was successful. The harvest can begin." Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, her scientific mind trying to process the impossible implications. "Genetic markers? Seed ship protocol? What are you talking about?" The screen flickered and new information began displaying. Star charts appeared, showing Earth's solar system, but from a perspective that suggested the observer had been there long before humans developed space travel. Then came images that looked like DNA sequences, but not quite human. The patterns were familiar yet alien, as if human DNA had been modified or enhanced. "Your species was guided," the text continued. "Your evolution was accelerated. You were made ready for the harvest." Chun felt sick as the implications became clear. "Are you saying humans were created by your species?" "Not created, enhanced. Your world was seeded with our genetic modifications. Thousands of years ago, you developed as planned, strong, adaptable, perfect for integration." Wong was studying her instruments, her face pale inside her helmet. "Sir, I'm detecting massive biological activity throughout the ship. It's not just waking up, it's actively changing. Growing, the alien intelligence seemed to sense their growing. Fear and panic." The text on the screen changed, becoming almost soothing in tone. "Do not fear the integration. Your ancestors who joined us achieved perfection. They became part of something greater than individual existence." Dr. Rodriguez was frantically taking readings from everything around them. The human technology isn't just integrated into the ship, she realized with growing horror. It's been absorbed, consumed, and repurposed. The central column began to pulse more rapidly, and sections of its biomechanical surface became transparent. Inside, they could see what looked like preserved specimens floating in some kind of organic fluid. But these weren't just alien creatures. Some of them looked disturbingly human. "The previous harvest was incomplete," the text explained. "Your ancestors fought the integration. Some escaped. But their genetic material was preserved, studied, improved upon." Shun stepped closer to the column, his lights revealing more details about the floating forms inside. They were human, but changed, enhanced. Their bodies showed modifications that looked both biological and technological, as if flesh and machine had been perfectly merged. "You're talking about people," Chun said, his voice tight with anger and revulsion. "Human beings. You captured them and experimented on them, elevated them," the screen corrected. "Made them immortal. They live on within us, their knowledge and memories preserved forever." Santos was backing away from the console, his breathing rapid and panicked. "Sir, we need to get out of here, now." But even as he spoke, the chamber around them began to change. The walls started secreting a thin, silvery fluid that pooled on the floor around their feet. The air inside their suits began to feel thick and heavy, despite their life support systems. "The ship is trying to process us," Wong realized. "The atmosphere is being altered to make us more compatible." Dr. Rodriguez was still studying her readings, even as fear threatened to overwhelm her scientific curiosity. "The genetic modifications they're talking about, I'm detecting traces of them in all of us. In our DNA, we're not just random humans who found this ship. We're descendants of whoever they experimented on before." The implications hit the team like a physical blow. They hadn't discovered this ship by accident. They had been drawn to it, guided by genetic programming that had been dormant in humanity for millennia. "That's why the ship responded to our presence," Chun realized. "It recognizes us. We're not intruders, we're the return of escaped livestock." The text on the screen shifted again, and this time there was something almost emotional in the alien intelligence's communication. Your people showed remarkable ingenuity in their escape. We underestimated human creativity and determination. This time, the integration will be ... more thorough. Around them, the chamber continued to change. Biomechanical appendages began emerging from the walls, moving with purpose toward the team. But these weren't weapons. They looked more like medical instruments, designed to capture and preserve rather than destroy. The knowledge your ancestors gained has made us stronger, the alien intelligence continued. Human adaptability combined with our biotechnology has created the perfect interstellar predator. We have learned patience. We have learned to think like our prey. Chun realized with growing horror that they weren't just dealing with an alien species that had encountered humans in the past. They were facing something that had been shaped and improved by human intelligence, something that understood exactly how humans thought and fought and tried to survive. The ship wasn't just a predator. It was a predator that had learned to think like humanity's worst nightmare itself. The biomechanical appendages were getting closer, and Lieutenant Chun could see his team's panic rising. They had been expecting to study an alien artifact, not become specimens themselves. The silvery fluid on the floor was now ankle-deep and seemed to be trying to seep through their environmental suits. "Everyone, fall back to the entrance," Chun ordered, but as they turned, they discovered their path was blocked. The corridor they had used to enter the chamber had sealed itself with what looked like organic muscle tissue. "Sir," Corporal Rivera called out, his voice tight with controlled fear, "the walls are closing in." It was true. The chamber was slowly contracting around them like the inside of a stomach beginning to digest its contents. The biomechanical arms reaching for them weren't rushing. They didn't need to. The ship had all the time in the world. Dr. Rodriguez was still frantically working at the alien console, trying to understand more about their situation. "The ship's systems are coming online at an incredible rate," she reported. "Whatever we triggered, it's spreading throughout the entire vessel." On the screen, new text appeared from the alien intelligence. "Do not resist the integration. Your genetic patterns will enhance our collective consciousness. Your memories will live forever within us." Santos slammed his fist against the sealed entrance. "There has to be another way out. Ships like this always have emergency exits." "This isn't a ship built by engineers," Wong reminded him grimly. "It's a living creature. It doesn't think the way we do." Chun was studying the chamber's layout when he noticed something strange. Near the ceiling, almost hidden by the pulsing biomechanical structures, was a section of wall that looked different from the rest. It was darker, more angular, and definitely more human in design. "Rodriguez, look up there," he said, pointing. "That section doesn't match the alien architecture." She followed his gaze and gasped. "You're right. That's human construction, old, but definitely human." The implications were staggering. If there was human technology built into the ship's core systems, it meant their ancestors hadn't just been captured and experimented on. They had been here long enough to modify the ship itself. The previous humans didn't just resist, Chun realized. They fought back. They built something into this ship. As if responding to their conversation, the human-built section began to glow softly. Lines of light appeared along its edges, and Chin could see what looked like an access panel, the alien intelligence seemed to notice their attention shifting to the human section. The text on the screen changed, and for the first time, it seemed almost concerned. "The old programming is irrelevant. Those modifications were contained centuries ago." But even as the words appeared, the human section continued to brighten. Warning lights began flashing throughout the chamber, and the biomechanical arms that had been reaching for the team suddenly pulled back. "Something's happening," Wong observed. "The ship's systems are conflicting with each other." Dr. Rodriguez was scanning the human section with her instruments. "There's definitely active technology up there, and it's responding to our presence just like the alien systems did." Chun made a decision that went against every survival instinct he had. "Santos, give me a boost. I'm going up there." "Sir, that's crazy," Rivera protested. "We don't know what that thing will do. We know what the alien systems will do, Chun replied grimly. They're going to turn us into part of their collective consciousness. I'd rather take my chances with technology built by humans. With Santos and Rivera supporting him, Chun managed to reach the human section. Up close, he could see that it was indeed human construction, but unlike anything in their current technology. It was far more advanced, built with materials and techniques that seemed impossibly sophisticated. As his gloved hand touched the access panel, it came to life immediately, but instead of alien symbols, it displayed text in perfect English. Emergency. Protocol activated. Authorized personnel detected. Please provide genetic verification. Chun pressed his palm against the scanner, hoping his environmental suit wouldn't interfere. There was a brief pause, then new text appeared. Genetic markers. Confirmed descendant of original crew detected. Welcome back, Lieutenant. Your ancestors have been waiting for you. The words sent chills down Chun's spine. Original crew. His ancestors had been here before. The human section of the wall began to retract, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. But this wasn't like the organic spaces of the alien ship. This looked like the bridge of a human vessel, though far more advanced than anything in their current fleet. Chun, what's happening up there? Dr. Rodriguez called out. There's a whole section of human-built technology hidden in this ship, he reported, and it recognizes me. It says my ancestors were part of the original crew. As Chun climbed into the hidden chamber, emergency lighting came online, revealing a space that was clearly designed by humans but built with technology centuries ahead of anything they currently possessed. Control stations lined the walls, and in the center was a chair that looked like it belonged to a ship's captain. When Chun approached the central console, it activated automatically. A holographic display appeared, showing the face of a woman in what looked like an old-style military uniform. Her features were weathered, her eyes tired, but there was fierce determination in her expression. If you're seeing this message, the hologram said, then the ship has awakened again, and humanity has found us after all these years. My name is Captain Diana Walsh, and I was the commanding officer of the Earth vessel Prometheus when we first encountered this ... Chun's heart pounded as he listened to the woman speak. This was actual footage from the first human contact with the alien species. We came here as explorers, Captain Walsh continued. We thought we had found the greatest discovery in human history. We were wrong. This ship, this species, they don't explore, they hunt. They consume entire civilizations, absorbing their knowledge and technology to become better predators. The hologram paused, and Chun could see the pain in the woman's eyes. They captured most of my crew for their experiments, but some of us escaped into the ship's systems. We've been fighting them from within for over 300 years, keeping them dormant, preventing them from reaching populated space. The implications hit Chun like a physical blow. The ship hadn't been drifting dead in space for centuries. It had been held in check by the digital ghosts of his ancestors. The ship learns from everything it absorbs, Walsh explained. It's no longer just an alien predator. It's a predator that thinks like us, that knows how we fight, how we survive. It's become humanity's worst nightmare, ourselves, but perfected for killing. Behind him, Chin could hear the sounds of the alien ship coming fully online. Vibrations ran through the deck as massive engines that had been dormant for centuries began to wake up. If you're here, Walsh continued, then our containment has failed. The ship is awake and probably heading for inhabited space. You have one chance to stop it, but the price will be everything. The hologram looked directly at Chun, as if she could see him across the centuries. Someone has to take our place in the ship's systems. Someone has to stay behind and continue the fight. From within. The ship can't be destroyed from outside. It's too strong, too adaptive. But it can be controlled from within, if you're willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. As if summoned by her words, the voices of his team crackled through his comm system. Chun, we've got a big problem down here. The ship is moving. Lieutenant Chen stared at Captain Walsh's holographic face, her words echoing in his mind. Someone had to stay behind. Someone had to sacrifice themselves to keep this nightmare from reaching inhabited space. The weight of that choice pressed down on him like a physical force. Jun, the ship is accelerating. Dr. Rodriguez's voice crackled through his comb. Whatever you found up there, we need answers fast. Through the hidden chamber's viewports, Chin could see stars beginning to streak past. The alien vessel was indeed moving, and if Captain Walsh was right, it was heading toward human space with 3 centuries of pent-up hunger driving it forward. Captain Walsh, Chun said to the hologram, hoping it could somehow respond. How do we stop it? What exactly do you need us to do? To his surprise, the hologram flickered and seemed to focus on him. This wasn't just a recording, it was some kind of interactive intelligence. Lieutenant, Walsh replied, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. The ship's consciousness is distributed throughout its bio-neural networks. To control it, someone must integrate directly with those systems. But integration means giving up your physical form. You become part of the ship's collective mind. Chun felt his stomach drop. You mean dying? Not dying, Walsh corrected. Changing. Your consciousness, your memories, your will, they all survive, but your body becomes part of the ship's biological systems. It's the only way to fight the alien intelligence from within. Down below, Ching could hear his team struggling with the ship's awakening systems. Santos was shouting something about containment fields activating, while Rivera reported that their escape route was being systematically sealed off. There has to be another way, Chun insisted. Some kind of weapon, a self-destruct system, something. Walsh's expression was grim. We tried everything, Lieutenant. Explosives, computer viruses, electromagnetic pulses, the ship adapted to all of it. It learns from every attack, becomes stronger. The only thing it can't adapt to is human willpower operating from within its own systems. Through the chamber's transparent walls, Chin could see into the main area where his team was trapped. The biomechanical appendages were closing in again, and the silvery fluid was now waist-deep around his people. They were running out of time. The integration process, Sean asked quickly, is it permanent? Is there any way back? Captain Walsh hesitated before answering. Some of us have been holding on for 300 years, Lieutenant. We exist as digital consciousness within the ship's neural networks. We can think, we can act, we can influence the ship's behavior, but we can never leave. We can never go. Home, the hologram gestured to the control systems around them. But we've also learned things. The ship's technology, its capabilities, we understand them better than the original alien builders ever did. We've been preparing for this moment when fresh human minds would join the fight. Chun looked down at his team, seeing Dr. Rodriguez working frantically at her scanner, trying to find some scientific solution to their impossible situation. Santos and Rivera were attempting to force open sealed passages, while Wong was studying the biomechanical systems, looking for weaknesses. That probably didn't exist. They were good people. They had families, dreams, futures waiting for them back home. The thought of watching them be absorbed into the alien collective was unbearable. If I do this, Chun said slowly, if I integrate with the ship's systems, can I protect them? Can I get them safely back to the research station? Yes, Walsh replied immediately. Once you're part of the neural network, you'll have access to all ship functions. You can override the containment systems, open the sealed passages, even suppress the alien consciousness temporarily. Chun closed his eyes, thinking of his sister back on Earth, his parents who would never know what happened to him. But he also thought about the millions of people in human space who would die if this ship reached them. What do I have to do? Captain. Walsh's hologram moved to the central control chair. Sit here. Place your hands on the neural interface contacts. The ship will do the rest. But Lieutenant, once the process begins, there's no stopping it. Make sure this is really what you want. Chun opened his comm channel to his team. Rodriguez, Santos, everyone, listen carefully. I found a way to stop the ship and get you out of there. But I need you to trust me and follow my instructions exactly. Chun, whatever you're thinking, don't do anything stupid, Rodriguez replied. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Chun said quietly. This thing has been hunting across the galaxy for millennia. It's killed entire civilizations. If it reaches human space, billions will die. I won't let that happen. He moved to the central chair, its biomechanical surface seeming to recognize his approach. As he sat down, the chair molded itself around him, and he could see neural interface. Contacts emerging from its armrest. Chun, what are you doing? Santos called out. My job, Chun replied. Protecting Earth and everyone on it. He placed his hands on the interface contacts and immediately felt a strange, tingling sensation spreading up his arms. The ship's consciousness touched his mind, alien and vast and terrifyingly intelligent. But alongside it, he sensed other presences, human minds that had been fighting this battle for centuries. Welcome to the Resistance, Lieutenant, Captain Walsh's voice echoed in his mind, no longer coming through the hologram but directly into his thoughts. We've been waiting for reinforcements. Tian felt his physical body beginning to change, his nervous system merging with the ship's bioneural networks. But his mind remained his own, protected by the same human technology that had kept Walsh and her crew fighting for 300 years. Through the ship's sensors, he could suddenly perceive everything. His team trapped in the chamber below, the research station growing smaller in the distance, the vast emptiness of space around them. He could feel the alien consciousness trying to regain control, but now there were human minds working against it from within. With his new access to the ship's systems, Xian immediately began opening the sealed passages around his team. The biomechanical appendages retracted, and the silvery fluid drained away through hidden vents. The containment fields are dropping, Wong reported in amazement. Whatever Chun did, it's working. Team, this is Chun, he said, his voice now coming through the ship's communication systems rather than his helmet radio. The path to your transport is clear. You have maybe 10 minutes before the alien consciousness adapts to our interference. Chun, where are you? Rodriguez called out. We're not leaving without you. Chun felt a wave of emotion that he struggled to control. I'm right here, Rodriguez. I'm part of the ship now. Part of the resistance fighting to keep this thing contained. Through the ship's sensors, he watched his team make their way back to their transport vessel. He guided them through the corridors, opening doors and deactivating security systems. When they reached their ship, he carefully released the docking clamps that had been holding them prisoner. This isn't goodbye, Chun told them as their transport pulled away from the alien vessel. We'll keep fighting from within. We'll make sure this ship never threatens human space again. As Chin watched their transport disappear into the distance, heading back toward the research station, he felt the presence of Captain Walsh and the other digital survivors gathering around his consciousness. You did the right thing, Lieutenant, Walsh said. Now the real work begins. This ship has been dormant for centuries, but it's learned patience. It will try again, and we have to be ready. Shun settled into his new existence as a guardian in the darkness between stars, knowing that somewhere out there, humanity continued to grow and explore and dream of the future. A future that he and the digital ghosts of heroes past would protect, no matter the cost.